But now let's get started. So the first thing I would like to point out is that marathon running is a long game. And what I mean by that is that if you want to run a marathon, then there's a big difference whether you decide to do it in a few months, if you've just started running, or you want to do it in 1 year. So 1 year of deliberate and thought through training is definitely better. The likelihood of you running the marathon with a better experience is just so much higher. And the other thing is that very often I see runners invest a lot of time and effort into training, but actually then they overlook really crucial aspects of race preparation. And that's what this webinar is really about. We are not going to go into details about training. Training does matter, of course, and there is a lot of marathon-specific training that you can do, which I've listed here as well. Very important to gradually build up mileage and put in consistent work, incorporate long runs or tempo runs around marathon pace, do drills and strides, maybe add hill training for better form, definitely strengthen mobility to stay injury-free, and taper. So they're all very important components, of course. But it tends to be that the nitty-gritty details that may actually make or break your experience on the race day are left to the last moment and are not thought through. So we're going to go through all of these preparation topics. And before we delve into those, then what is important to mention about training is that one very common mistake that I see runners make, and that I've made on a countless number of times as well, is that like when the taper starts before the marathon, like when you start to reduce load and volume and intensity of your runs, then you start to feel anxious and lose confidence in your training. And then you think that you should just prove yourself that I can do it. And you go out and do a really hard training on the race week. It's a really simple mistake to avoid. And that's why I've written here just a reminder that don't leave the race in your training. So there are a number of things what you can prepare for. First off, the course. So if you're participating in a marathon that is taking place in your hometown, then you have an advantage because you have a possibility to go and see where does it take place. You have a possibility to run through sections of this race, for example. It's very important from pacing perspective if the race is on flat or hilly roads, or if it's paved or dirt roads. Obviously, flat and paved roads are much faster. Then also, even the fact that for some runners, races that are point to point, meaning that it starts from one place and finishes another place, is mentally harder. And also there's a wind factor. If there's counter wind, then it's likely going to impact you from start to finish. For some runners, loop courses or out and back courses may also be either easy or difficult, depends on the runner. And also look if the course has many turns or if it's very straight, or if the roads are in open space or if they're offering shade. It's important in the sense that if the race takes place between big buildings, for example, and then GPS is more incorrect, and if there's some shade, then even if it's sunny, you may not do so badly with sun. And if there are many turns, then it tends to be that if there are more people, then you lose time on the turns. Definitely also check the aid stations, how many aid stations there are, what they offer, where are they located, and so on and so forth. All of this, just studying the race course actually allows you to train for the course as well. So if you know that it's hilly, then you know that you need to add hill training to your training as well. And also you can adjust your pacing strategy because of it. Then prepare for hot weather. If it's hot, sunny, and especially if it's humid, then your pacing will be impacted. And also wind can be a huge factor if there's a very strong wind. Then also race time is important, like because sometimes when it's really hot, but the race is at night or early morning, then again you're not impacted that much. The weather also puts a lot of basically directs your choice of clothing. So the hotter the weather, the lighter and the less clothes you should wear. And also the weather will dictate your hydration strategy. So we will talk about this in a bit as well. How you can prepare for weather if you know that you're going to have a sunny and hot race, then you can train for heat. And you can try to acclimatize with the heat before. Also, again, you can adjust your pacing goals and really think through hydration. The impact of heat, in my opinion, is one of the biggest or the most critical things to consider, because the higher the temperature, the slower you are. And also what is interesting is that slower runners tend to be more affected by heat than faster runners. Here is an example from core body temperature .com, where a runner who runs, for example, in 10 degrees Celsius, 3 hour and 30-minute marathon, the same runner would run the marathon with 15 minutes longer if it's 25 degrees outside. So the capability of a runner running in hotter weather is so much different. And you may ask actually that, well, 25 degrees, it's not like it's really hot, but actually it just has this impact because when you run with high effort, your body generates heat. And to keep functioning, the body must disperse the heat. And the warmer it is, the harder it is for the body to cool down. So either you need to either employ different cooling strategies, reduce pace, or you're going to be in trouble. We're going to talk about cooling strategies later as well. So here's a quote from Dina Koster's book, Let Your Mind Run. She famously ran the Athens Olympics in a very hot climate conditions. And if I remember right, she was third. And she says that the heat, humidity, and pace all elevate core body temperature. And the athlete's challenge is to run at a pace that allows the body to release enough heat to avoid overheating. Then regarding nutrition and hydration, well, I would put the focus on the word enough, because throughout many years, I actually see that runners, like the simplest mistake that runners can make is just not eating enough or drinking enough in certain conditions. So it actually starts earlier than race day. You need to increase carbs during taper already, and especially the last few days are critical. And nowadays they say that actually this huge carb loading at the last moment is even not that effective. It's better to do it rather gradually, and just understand how many extra carbs you need. Also reduce fiber intake before the race, and practice your lunch, dinner the day before, and pre-race breakfast. For some people, it may work better to have like a bigger lunch and a lighter dinner the day before, not eat like a huge dinner and go to race the next morning. So I would say, again, the focus here is to practice it, to just try to go through this scenario before. Also, you need to test which gels work for you. So if we talk about training runs, normally it would be ideal if you could incorporate real food instead of gels. But if we're talking about race conditions, you really need gels as fast carbohydrate. And most gels have 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrate. So you need to understand like which gels you like, which gels you can take in a bigger amount, and which flavor works for you, which consistency works for you. Do you have to take the gel with water, or can you take it without water? All of these things you should test out in your training already before the race. So you need to, I would say, test it out in long and hard efforts, like long runs or tempo runs, or test races if you're doing test races. Here's an example of a gel pack. If I ask runners how many grams of carbs does your gel have, then very often runners say, well, yeah, for example, in this case, 40 grams of carbs. This is 40, which is mentioned on the front pack. But actually, it's not 40 grams of carbs. It's just the weight. So the grams of carbs are here, and it's 25. So you really need to read the labels and understand how much is there. Also, in this example, we have sodium, 22 milligrams, and caffeine. How many carbs do you need on the race day? Well, one thing you have to consider is that if you're running for more than 1.5 hours or 2 hours, your energy stores in your body are depleted. So you should start to take gels, and you should start to take gels or carbs already early into the race, to avoid this situation from happening, that at one point you're just depleted of energy. So you should try to avoid this situation. One recommended practice is that you have a pre-morning breakfast, and then you take a gel 15 minutes before the race starts. But again, you need to practice it if it works for you, because you may have stomach stitches or something else. So you just need to understand what works for you. And if you take a gel 15 minutes before the marathon, then the recommended approach would be that you take a gel every 20-30 minutes, depending on, again, like your gel like how many grams of carbs it has and how big it is and so on. Also, one point I can make here about gels is that you are more likely to take gels or to want to take gels earlier in the race, because later when the fatigue kicks in, you're just like you have this flavor fatigue and you don't really want to take the carbs anymore. And another thing is that even if at that point when you don't want to take the gel, you just take the gel and rinse it in your mouth and spit it out, even that is a little bit better than just not taking the gel at all. And regarding caffeine, like also the mistake I used to make, for example, in the beginning was that I took like most of my gels were with caffeine, but actually there's like the recommended dose is like more like 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram body weight. So your you just need to calculate how much it makes for you. So in my case, for example, if my gel package has 150 milligrams of caffeine, then that's pretty much two caffeine gels, not more. And also, it would be better to time the caffeine gels so that, of course, again, like if you try to understand how quickly the caffeine works for you, because caffeine metabolism differs, and it may take up to 45 minutes actually to kick in. So you may time it so that on for example, on like a hard effort section, like there's a hill or something, the caffeine kicks in. What is really important here is that you need to train your gut in the training to tolerate more carbs. Yeah, as I said, read the labels. But very often I've heard runners say that, well, I just don't need so many carbs. But you don't really know how much better you would race if you would take the gels. The experience could be very different. So if there's one rule of thumb, then you ideally should aim for 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. So now if you think like let's say if your energy gel is 30 grams of carbs, then just try to calculate how many gel packages does it actually mean. So for example, like if you try to take at least 30 grams, then it's basically two gels in an hour. So if you run a 4-hour marathon, that's about 8 gels. If you take one before you start, then you should either carry the rest, or you should just somehow have some people helping you by the course, or you need to figure out what is your strategy there. But and also there's a possibility if you check what the race organizers offer, which gels, then you can also practice with these gels that they offer. The only thing is that during marathon, we often are in a kind of like a fog, especially in the later kilometers. So you may not actually notice these gel packages at an aid station. You just may run past, and then later you're not going to go back and grab the gels. Regarding hydration, what is important is that we lose sodium through sweat, which is basically natrium, and sodium helps to set the fluid balance in our body. But instead of unlike these carbs, it's very difficult to give like one general piece of advice here because sweat rate and sodium loss is very individual. But as a general guidance, if it's really hot and if you know you're a salty sweater and you sweat a lot, then you need a higher sodium concentration, either in your water or in your gel or both. So again, check out what the aid stations offer. And if it's really hot, then consider carrying your own electrolyte drink or have someone by the course who could give you a bottle. Also, I've added here a link to precisionhydration.com. They have a free planner. So basically, they help you calculate how much sodium you potentially could need, which I think is a good resource. And yeah, here we can say like, here's a picture of a soft flask. This is what I use. This works for me. But you, of course, may find it uncomfortable. So it really like depends on a person. And yeah, up to a certain point, just drinking water is okay. But uh, as those sodium losses start to mount up, you need to replace it to avoid your blood becoming diluted. So the important takeaway here is that if you just take water, you end up diluting your sodium concentration in your body even further. So actually, instead of thinking you're like doing your body good and you're just drinking water and hydrating, you actually are going to make the situation worse. Then regarding expected race pace, what I would advise is do 10K or 21K test races because there's a correlation between those races and how you're going to do in your marathon. And of course, if there are like I don't know, if it was a very windy 10K, then you should again take that into context when calculating your marathon pace. But in general, you can get an idea based on that. And again, for pacing, as I said before, just race conditions and your current fitness are important. It doesn't matter what you maybe were capable of running a few years ago. If you've started to train for a marathon now, then you have to take your current fitness into account. Definitely a slower start is advised. And one thing that we at Kulgu advise is that you have you calculate like an optimistic, realistic, and pessimistic race pace scenario. So if everything is going according to the plan and you're feeling good, then maybe you can follow the optimistic scenario. And then if things are happening and you're are facing various challenges, then maybe you have to move to a pessimistic scenario. It's kind of like a similar idea with this ABC goal. So your A goal may be, for example, that you want to run a marathon below 4 hours. And your B goal could be like, okay, if that is not possible, I want to run at least in 4 hours and 10 minutes. And your C goal maybe could be to just finish. So why that is useful is that like if something happens during the marathon and there are unexpected things, then at least you will know, like you will stay motivated because you know that these were all your goals. So you can just quickly switch to the next goal. It's easier to let go of this A goal in this way. Definitely regarding expected race pace, understand what you are capable of running. Either ask your coach if you have one, or we are also going to actually launch a marathon prediction on our website. So we will add a link in the email as well, so we can actually calculate that for you. Race logistics, again, like a seemingly irrelevant thing, which may be very relevant. You like especially if you have a marathon in a foreign place, you don't know where you're going, and you're just learning to get around with transportation and so on. What is advisable is to pick up your bib early and definitely avoid like these really long walks where you're getting to know the city one day before the marathon. And in the expos, it's very marathon expos. It's very typical for runners to find new things, and then they have the curiosity to try it out on the marathon day or before the marathon day. So this is definitely a red flag, because it's not the time to experiment. You don't know what the impact will be, and you may actually cause issues for yourself. This especially goes for race gear. And then regarding logistics, I work backwards from like, when do you have to wake up, eat, get the transport to get to the start at the right time? Regarding race kit, I already mentioned a little bit, because your core body temperature will rise. Definitely choose light and white race kit for hot races. Less like really breathable fabric, and less is more, in that sense that you're going to get hotter. So unless it's really like raining and below 10 degrees Celsius, then you really don't need to worry about getting cold. And wear something that is tried and tested. Regarding shoes and also socks, pick extra carefully, because just pick the shoes that are really comfortable and that are a little bit bigger than your normal training shoes, because when your body temperature rises, your feet are also going to swell, and you're just gonna have a couple of black toenails afterwards. And also work out where do you carry your gels? Where do you carry? Do you want to take your phone with you? Do you want to carry electrolytes? Nowadays, there are a lot of really good. There's a lot of really good running gear with pockets or belts that don't bounce around. So carry as little as possible, but as much as necessary. And regarding logistics, the key is to arrive early, because you don't need extra stress rushing to this to the start and being late to the start. And of course, as very often is repeated, don't do anything new on race day. Regarding race nerves, a little race anxiety can actually be beneficial, but try not to overthink it. What is also advised is to reduce stressful activities on race week, or if you can, do less work on the race week. Reduce social activities, meeting with a lot of people, with small children. It may impact your immunity. Think about your why. Like, why are you doing it? Why this is important for you? It may help you calm down in that sense. And also take the perspective that marathon is a celebration. It's not some kind of a trial or a test that you have to go through. And try to sleep more on the days leading up to the race, because you may find that you may have trouble sleeping on the night before. Many people do, and that's perfectly okay. So you don't have to fight against it. You Even if you sleep very little, it's like if you have slept before the days before, then you're gonna be fine. So to sum up pre-race planning part, my advice would be to always prepare for the conditions. You may be capable of running better if the conditions are better, but you always have to take into account this race that you're going to race this day, and how you can race this race the best way you can. And this will help you just deal with everything that awaits.